Hey everybody, we're back to go ahead and change the housing on this HTC M7 as well as the LCD screen. You just hopefully watch the back removal. If not, it's going to be in the video description at the bottom. A couple tools we're going to use, maybe a dental pick. We'll need a Phillips screwdriver. You can use any other spudger, preferably maybe a nylon, or a dental pick works pretty well for those tricky ribbon cables that you got to get out of there. So here we have the back of the phone removed, and you can see that it's got a bunch of wires and some tape across the back. The first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is start to remove all of the tape off the back. These little black pieces of tape here hold down a wire cable and also the portion for one of the LCD screen connectors. We'll go ahead and remove this black tape off of the phone, and that will reveal the connector for the phone for us. We'll go ahead and just undo the wire connector first and just set it aside. We're then going to undo this silver fabric tape. Just go ahead and get it started with a dental pick and then kind of pry it back. We do want to try to reuse this tape if possible. Go ahead and pop these up using a flat spudger and pulling up on the black portion of the connector. It'll pop up and you can pull the cable out. Going to go ahead and work this tape off here just a little bit. It is connecting the two cables together. We're going to go ahead and separate that, just separating the tape between the two of them, using just a pair of tweezers to get started and then pull this tape back. Being nice and gentle, we don't want to damage any of these ribbon cables. We want to reuse everything within the interior of this phone. Perfect. Now we've got the two cables separated. You can see that they're both removed. Slightly pull them back and make sure that they are separated from everything underneath. Go ahead and start on the opposite side of the phone. Remove the fabric tape on this side as well. That'll go ahead and reveal a Phillips head screw connector for us. We'll go ahead and undo both screws that hold this down. We'll go ahead and pop this connector up. Being nice and gentle, it does want to be pried up a little bit on both sides to come off evenly. Next thing we're going to do is remove this black tape covering this cable down here at the bottom. And that will reveal another white and black connector. Go ahead and just pop the black portion of it up and pull the cable out. And go ahead and pull it back. You can see that we have some more of that gray fabric tape, so we'll go ahead and use our dental pick to get started here. Go ahead and pull this tape back. Being nice and gentle, as it is connected to ribbon cables. So we have a total of 3 here. This one that I'm using right here pops up a little bit differently. You have to pop it from the back, the white portion of it, forward, and that will go ahead and release the cable for you. And finally, at the bottom down here, we have another cable that's put on with 2 Phillips screws. We'll go ahead and set those aside. You do want to make sure you retain where these screws come out of the interior of the phone, as a lot of them are different sizes. and you will need to put them back in the correct spot when reassembling the phone. Go ahead and pry the cable off of the main board here. Nice and gentle, making sure we don't damage anything as we pry this up. We have 3 little wire connectors that are holding still on the logic board, one just right here to the right of the camera. I'll go ahead and just pry that up. We have 2 on the left side of the camera. I'll go ahead and just remove those as well and set them aside. Alright, the next thing we need to do is undo all the screws that hold this logic board together. There are a total of 4 on here. Go ahead and remove the top one, just to the left of the camera, making sure we retain where this came out of. The one to the right of the camera, one on the bottom right of the phone. It's holding just in the bottom corner, and there's one on the bottom left as well. We're going to go ahead and pull the logic board up from the top up here. It's a little bit tricky. You have this copper shielding beneath it, making sure that all the cables and ribbon cables are out of the way. There is some of that silver metallic or fabric adhesive tape holding the bottom of this board to the battery. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pop the top up here just a little bit, nice and gentle, and we're going to wiggle it back and forth. And that'll start to free the tape up and give us a little bit of wiggle room off of the battery behind it. Sliding it back and forth. I'm just going to use a spudger and try to pry the tape off just a little bit on the back side of this. You want to be nice and careful when you do this, and make sure you pull down on the tape rather than pushing off the logic board. Just keep wiggling it back and forth. If the tape starts to rip, that is okay. We technically don't really need it to reassemble the phone. It just holds everything in place nicely. Let's go ahead and keep wiggling it back and forth. You can also just go ahead and cut the tape if you have a nice flat razor blade that you can fit underneath there. Let's go ahead and pull it. You can see that the tape's ripping just a little bit, and that's totally fine. You can see that we have portions still on the logic board there. Go ahead and remove that portion of the tape. Alright, so what we've revealed is the battery beneath. We're going to go ahead and undo the screws here at the top of the top logic board here. There's one just right to the right of the camera, one in the upper right hand corner of the phone, one to the left side of the phone, it's going to be nice and gentle about this. There's a vibration module right here, which we're going to go ahead and pull out of its socket to make sure that the logic board comes out. You don't want to try to pull it off as it's soldered to the first board here. Double check and see if there's any wiggle room on this board, which there doesn't seem to be a lot of. making sure that vibration module is nice and free. It's going to pull this tape off and up here. You can pull this connector off. It does disconnect to our ribbon cable snap point on the logic board. Gives a little extra working room. Go ahead and set that aside. There is a little connector, a pop-up slot, just like we saw for the other ribbon cables. I'm just going to pop it up and then pull the ribbon cable off. This is for the SIM connector that's housed underneath the LCD screen. Pop off this top connector for the power button. There's a little clip here that holds the logic board down, and it's a little tricky to get off. You want to be gentle as you remove it. You don't want to break it, but it does hold the logic board in place. So using some sort of a tool or your finger, go ahead and just pull back on it and see if you can get it to lift the logic board up. So I'm just going to use a flat spudger and pushing down with my finger. See if we can get it to let go of the logic board. You do have to manhandle it just a little bit, but be very careful not to damage the board itself or this connector that holds it down. Bent my dental pick there. It's a pretty strong little clip. Not making a lot of progress on it. See if I can get a little extra wiggle room here. Start here from the top. Alright, we're just going to use our finger, pull it down. I bite my fingernail, so I don't have a ton of ability to pull on it. I don't suggest using a metal tool to get this to disconnect, but depending upon how tight it is, you may have to do so. Since this phone was built with such tight tolerances, they really wanted to make sure that nothing's wiggling around on the interior of this phone. It is good build quality. Now I'm not prying on the board itself, I'm only prying on the connector. There we go. We got it to lift up out of its slot. We're just going to pry here in the corner just a little bit. There's a little connector for the volume buttons here. We're just going to go ahead and separate them from the mid-frame of the phone. Being nice and gentle, you can use a razor blade or a very thin spudger. They have some double-sided adhesive that holds them onto the mid-frame. Going ahead and removing that. Perfect. Got our power button here. And our earpiece speaker. which we'll go ahead and remove next off of the phone. Just using a pry tool. It does have some adhesive that holds it in, so you want to be pretty gentle and pry from all sides to get it started. Don't want to damage it, so we're prying on the plastic piece that goes around it. We'll go ahead and remove that out of the phone. It does have the adhesive. You definitely want to make sure you do not rip the speaker, so be careful as you remove it. Have the power button here. We're just going to go ahead and separate it from the mid-frame. It also has some double-sided adhesive that holds it to the mid-frame of the phone. Go ahead and set that aside. Go ahead and undo the bottom speaker panel, removing 2 screws that are holding this portion down here. So we can get that screw out. It wants to stay in there. We have a 3rd screw just a little bit closer to the middle of the base portion there. Use a pry tool and give it a little bit of tug here on the side. See if we can't get some separation going here. Making some progress getting to pry up. Just using a flat spudger to give us more room to pull. Just pull this off the mid frame, nice and gentle as we remove it. It does have some adhesive that's holding it down, so don't be too rough with it. This little plastic grommet that pops off, it goes right in the middle of the 3rd screw removed. It's pretty easy to get put back on. You can't really put it on the wrong way. It's not the end of the world if you didn't see how it came off. Looking to see if there's anything else we need to remove, which there is not. We're going to go ahead and start prying the battery out. You can use a little bit of heat if you want to. It has some adhesive that holds it down. I'm going to use just a flat spudger and go nice and slow. Lift up, slide the spudger underneath and kind of wiggle it around a little bit to start the adhesive. Make sure you do this on all sides of the battery side that you're starting on. You'll see that I'm pulling up right in the middle. It'll help not deform the battery too much. Once you get it started, you can kind of pull it away just a little bit. We can work on the other side. And doing the same thing, just prying up and then wiggling the spudger back and forth a little bit. We're going to put it right down the center, give it a nice pry point. It has like 4 flaps on the side of the battery. If one flap comes undone, don't worry, you can just go ahead and fold it over. The one thing you do not want to do is puncture the battery or deform it too far. Try to make sure it's nice and flat, so using a nice flat spudger to remove it. Alright, we've went ahead and completely disassembled the interior of this phone. You can see that we've removed almost everything out of it. We still have to work on the display portion. which is what we'll remove next. So instead of putting the speech bubbles for the next video, I'm going to just go ahead and start putting all the links within the description, since I've realized those don't always pop up correctly when you load a video. So if you want to watch the video for removing the LCD, go ahead and hit the link at the bottom of the screen, or in the description, I mean. And that'll take you to the next video within the series of how to replace the housing on this HTC M7, as well as the LOCA process for replacing the glass. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.